All right, here we go. Live breaking news coverage of Tucson, Arizona, where former President Barack Obama is set to take the stage on behalf of Kamala Harris. He was roundly criticized for his last speech about young African-American men and how they were voting. We'll see if he changes how he speaks about the black vote in just a couple of minutes. It will be very telling. Michigan, Donald Trump, their presidential run has, well, been credited to Barack Obama's roast of Donald Trump back at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2012 or 2013. So to see the two men on the stage together shows you just how personal politics is. We'll dip into both when they do get personal. And we are now 18 days until Election Day. With that, we welcome you to the fairest network on television. Huge show tonight. The betting markets show Donald Trump leading and pulling away from Harris. New questions: are the betting markets rigged? The war on Elon Musk, how the world's richest man, he has a rally right now in Pennsylvania, went from the richest man as a hero to now supervillain. And why 1/3 of Americans say illegal immigrants are poisoning the blood of America. Certainly bad that people think that way. Whose fault is it? But first tonight, the charming version of Donald Trump. And we'll see if we get charming Donald Trump on the stage tonight for his rally. Seriously, he can be charming. He was and is lately. Just watch.
Tradition holds that I'm supposed to tell a few self-deprecating jokes this evening. So here it goes. Nope, I've got nothing. I've got nothing.
You have a beautiful voice, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I'm having a panic attack right now. No panic. I'm right here with you.
Take your time, doctor. Take your time. Thank you.
And it's working. The three times Donald Trump has run for president, 2016, 2020, 2024, he has never been more popular at this time in October. His net favorability is still negative, 9 points underwater. But compare that to 2016 when it was negative 27. The American people have spoken. They like charming Donald Trump, and the election is tight. Michigan, for example, is statistically tied right now. Okay, more people like Trump. Trump needs people to like him. That's how you win elections. And he can be charming. One of the most charming entertainers, politicians, TV stars, whatever you want to call him, that has ever existed. One of the most talented natural politicians that's ever been out there. Until he becomes, and we've seen this a lot lately, not charming Trump.
We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
One rough hour, and I mean real rough, the word will get out and it will end immediately. End immediately. These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges and our justices, trying to get them to sway their vote.
Trump supporters say that's Trump being Trump. One of them, and you said it on this show before, is Corey Lewandowski, managed Trump's 2016 campaign and is a senior advisor on the 2024 race and joins us now. Corey, common sense came from my mother. You get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Why does that not apply to the last 18 days of this election?
Well, Leland, we know what each of these candidates' policies are. And the policies are very clearly different between what Donald Trump wants for America and what Vice President Harris wants for America. And so these two candidates are both known commodities. They both have records. And so now Donald Trump gets to have a little fun. He gets to have a little fun by poking holes at Vice President Harris, who didn't show up at the Al Smith dinner last night and who has fumbled on most of her interviews. So listen, that's who Donald Trump is. He's a great counterpuncher. But this election is really about policies, and he has the right policies for America.
Unquestionably, when Donald Trump talks about policies, he does better. Lately, he has not been talking sometimes about policy. He's been talking about using the National Guard and the military to go after his enemies. 2016, the race you architected that he won, Was Trump being the happy warrior? He was talking about policies. He was talking about the culture issues that Americans care about, not about his own personal grievances and how to solve them. Why does that playbook not apply now?
Well, Leland, you have to look at what has happened to Mr. Trump post-presidency. The way the Justice Department has gone after him and his family, what they've done to destroy people, good people in this country. And so he has said, and I firmly believe it, that he is the only thing standing between chaos in this country and prosperity. And his policies will bring prosperity, and Vice President Harris's policies will bring chaos.
I hear you. I'm still trying to figure out, though. I really do hear you on the policy issue. I'm trying to figure out whether the American people care about how Donald Trump's been treated, especially swing voters, because I haven't seen that as an issue in any poll but shows up. The criticism, and oddly, this is from, not oddly, obviously this is from people who are not necessarily favorable to Trump, comes from CNN, Maggie Haberman, talking about how Donald Trump is getting, in their words, actually crazier. Take a listen.
Why do you think his speeches are getting crazy like that?
Well, I don't exactly think that his speeches were ever, the works of Shakespeare, right, in terms of being sort of straight and linear. But he has always meandered. He has always, drifted off into various tangents and so forth. I think he's very angry.
Is Haberman right in a sense that Donald Trump is angry and that's what we're seeing come out?
Leland, she's absolutely wrong, which is not new for the old great which has fallen so far from her heyday at the New York Times. I've traveled with Donald Trump extensively on this campaign. He has fun. We're having fun. We're playing music on the plane. He's excited. He has a vicious schedule, a tenacious schedule, one that no mere mortal could continue to achieve. But he's doing it. And, he's candidly outworking his opponent. And when he's in front of these crowds, whether it's at the barber shop yesterday or the Al Smith dinner last night or tonight in Michigan, tomorrow in Pennsylvania, he's having fun. And that's what it takes to win.
When he's having fun, he is at his best. You and I were on the road in 2016. Some of those moments, some of those rallies were unlike anything I've ever been to, with the possible exception of a Barack Obama rally or two in 2008. You make the point, and I think a lot of Republicans do, that Donald Trump is doing quite well. Last night on the program, Chris Steyerwalt had a warning about that. Take a listen.
But the idea that Donald Trump is going to win a national popular vote majority and that he's going to smash the Electoral College and win the kind of victory that no Republicans won since 1988. I know Republicans want to think that's true, but I think that's extraordinarily unlikely. And that kind of thinking for Republicans is an invitation to disaster.
You got a point?
Leland, it's interesting. 8 years ago, the pundits all said that Donald Trump was going to lose an electoral landslide and he get over 300 electoral votes. He's more popular, as your show stated at the onset, today than he's ever been. Yes, he still has a negative favorability rating by 9 points. But when you look at where that was 8 years ago, it was 27 points down. And the American people are tired of these failed policies. So they're going to send Donald Trump back to the White House so they can have prosperity and safety and security for their families.
You don't worry that confidence is a recipe for disaster?
Of course it is, but that's why we run every day like we're 2, 3, and 5 points behind in every state. That's why Donald Trump is doing 3, 4, and 5 events a day. And you juxtapose that with Vice President Harris and her running mate Tim Walz, who have basically run the same campaign that Joe Biden ran 4 years ago during COVID, which is hide in the basement and make this campaign a referendum on Donald Trump's personality. People are tired of that old rhetoric. They want economic prosperity. And if it's about a personality or prosperity, people are picking prosperity every time.
All right. Corey, thank you very much. Closing arguments coming here over the next 18 days. We'll check in with you on the road. We're looking at pictures before Barack Obama walks out in what will be no doubtedly a personal attack, as you point out, on Donald Trump. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Joe Biden talked to the press pool. We haven't heard from President Biden lately. Don't really think about him that much, but he is still the president of the United States, and he is in Germany right now. He was talking about Israel's killing of Yahya Sinwar. Sinwar was the head of Hamas and the mastermind of October 7th.
And there's an opportunity, my view and my colleagues agree, that we'll probably deal with Israel and Iran in a way that is and the stuff which for a while.
I'm sorry, I lived in the Middle East for 4 years. I've covered an awful lot of times that people have talked about ending the conflict. No one has ever talked about ending it for a while. That's not how American presidents talk. For a while? It's not American leadership. That sounds like something that might hopefully come out of what? A high school geography paper? Just as an idea, let's end the conflict for good. How about talking about that? By forcing Iran to stop funding, organizing, and inciting and arming Hamas, Hezbollah, and the conflict and terrorism. Yesterday in War Notes, we told you the killing gives Iran an opportunity to help Kamala Harris by ordering Hamas to release the hostages. War Notes is a free newsletter that comes out at 4 p.m. every day. You can subscribe for free at warnotes.com. I don't like doing the I told you so's on the show. You, our viewers, are smart. You remember what we say. But just think about what President Biden said. We can probably deal with Israel and Iran. So he is admitting that Iran is behind all of this. He is the person who took the American boot off the neck of Iran. And now President Biden is all but begging a country that chants death to America for help in an election. Help does not come free, especially from the Iranians. It says everything about the Biden-Harris view of Iran and their view of where they are in this election. Donald Trump has been talking about that on the stump, especially how dangerous of an environment we are in right now. The betting markets for this election have Trump with a sudden and serious lead. Republicans love to talk about it. You heard about it from Corey Lewandowski. Who is behind those big bets in Trump's favor, and are they trying to rig the markets? Welcome back. Live pictures of Donald Trump's rally in Detroit. You can see Florida Congressman Byron Donalds is speaking. See which Donald Trump we get tonight. Very charming Donald Trump, which tends to come out the more he is ahead in the polls and the better he feels, or Donald Trump on the attack. One thing that Republicans keep talking about over and over and over again is not only have the polls moved in favor of Donald Trump, but the betting markets have swung wildly. This is where people bet hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on who is going to win the election. It is legal. Those betting markets now give him a 60+% chance of winning. It's the same as betting on the Super Bowl. Since 1980, the betting markets have accurately predicted the president 10 out of 11 times. The only time they were wrong was 2016. But some in the media are now suggesting the market is rigged in Trump's favor. Alexander Ospovich of the Wall Street Journal reports a mystery $30 million wave of pro-Trump bets have moved the market. The site is called Polymarket. Right now, it shows Trump with a massive lead over Kamala Harris. The numbers update in real time as people place their bets. The $30 million wagers we mentioned moved Trump's chances up 13%. Michael Schwimmer knows a thing or two about the betting world. He's the founder of Big League Advance and Jambo's Analytics, which you can think of as Shark Tank for up-and-coming pro athletes. Michael, welcome to the program. Good to have you. Are the betting markets, when it comes to politics, the presidential race, rigged?
No, they're not, and they can't be, right? These are open markets, and you've referenced Polymarket, but there's 100 other markets out there, Betfair and a ton of others. So if you're going to bet big on one side of the market, and if it was actually rigged, right, they would artificially move it that way, and there'd be a ton of Harris money coming in on the other side to bring it back. Just similar like to a sports match. If you bet on the Commanders versus the Ravens and you keep doing that, there's going to be money on the Ravens on the other side coming in, right? So what you're seeing here is
let me see if I understand this right. Okay, so if you knew Kamala Harris was going to win, you were positive of it, and you wanted to bet in just straight up bet on it rather than currencies or whatever else, you'd put $30 million on Trump. You would then move the market so you got better odds on Harris. And then what you're saying, you'd put $300 or $400 million on Harris. But since that hasn't happened out of the $2 billion wagered, therefore, this is not a rigging situation.
That's correct. Yeah, it's not. And these people putting these wages in, think of it this way, right? If you're going to put these types of wages, you got to have a 10 to 15% edge, you think, on the market. So if they're betting it at Trump at 55%, they have predictive models that believe Trump should win 70 to 75% of the time in order to make these big wagers. You don't bet $30 million if you think you have a 1% edge. Right. So what's interesting in all of this is the people that are making these bets actually think the market is so outrageous. And again, they're probably it's like if you had a coin flip that you knew 65% of the time was going to land on heads, but you got one flip, how much are you betting on that? Right. And so these people, again, who are making these bets believe that the numbers are so out of whack.
So what are they seeing? What are these models showing that the pundits and everybody else who's talking isn't seeing, who everybody tells me this race is so close?
Look, I'm not the one making these bets, right? So I can't tell you exactly what goes into the models of the people that are making the bets, but I would assume it's what we saw in 2016, right? And by the way, the betting markets, as you point out, didn't predict it, but they were a lot closer than the polls. The betting markets in 2016. So they told a little bit of a closer story. And, if I were to guess on this, I think it's all of the Trump voters that are not going to be in polls, right? There's a difference between polls and betting. The betting market is so much more predictive than the polls, right? It's like if you were sitting around with 20 of your buddies at a game.
The issue you're talking about is the undercounting or underreporting of the Trump vote. My sister, also who helps DDHQ, professor of statistics, was on Wednesday about that. Take a listen.
I think what's clear is that pollsters have been pretty good in the past about counting people, except when it comes to Trump. I don't think it's that out of the question that they're also undercounting him by 5 again, which means he would actually potentially win by a landslide.
So in sports, you guys are looking for the money ball, right? You're looking for the person who, for whatever reason, is overlooked and undervalued. And what you're saying is that's what these betting markets are seeing in Donald Trump.
Absolutely. And think of it this way. If someone thought the other way, right, if someone really thought Harris had a 55% chance to win, that would be a 15% edge the other way. Where are those Harris bets coming? They're not coming. So therefore, nobody has models that think Harris can win at a 55% clip right now, or we would see a flood of money coming in on that side, which we're not seeing.
We put that graphic up, and I'm just going to do the math so I make sure I have it right. Hundreds, thousands, millions, $2 billion bet. We see Barack Obama walk out. It'd be interesting to see if he takes a different tack when it comes to black male voters than he has in the past. It doesn't look like that's exactly the crowd that they've organized for him. Michael, what do you make of $2 billion bet? Is that a little or a lot compared to, say, the Super Bowl?
That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot, especially when you consider this is not coming from the United States. This is all overseas. Right? I mean, this is a lot of.
Isn't there a danger, though? I'm just thinking this out loud. You just said overseas. Isn't there sort of a danger in people overseas betting on the U.S. presidential election?
I don't think so. It's like if you have all this money bet on the World Cup, can you actually influence it? I think that. And again, your
winning the World Cup doesn't get you the nuclear codes.
That's true. That's a good point. Look, I think this is my opinion on this. It's hard for me to believe. I think there's people running models that are, again, counting undervalued funds of Trump and finding big advantages in what they believe in the models they're building, have advantages, and they're making bets on those advantages. It happens every day in the stock market. It happens in the presidential election. It happens in any market.
Happens with your company that's been wildly successful, betting on undervalued, underappreciated athletes. Michael, thanks for joining us. First time on the show. It won't be your last. We appreciate it. We're going to listen in to Barack Obama on the stump for a minute.
And I know, Colorado's got a couple good players, but I also know you guys have beaten them twice in a row, so don't bet against the Wildcats tomorrow. Come on. I love you back. But I am not here just to talk about football. I am here to ask you to vote for my friend and your outstanding Congressman, Raul Grijalva. For your next member of Congress from the 6th District, Kirsten Engel. For your outstanding next United States Senator, Ruben Gallego. And for the next President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Now, before I get going, you guys have to forgive me, because let's face it, I'm a little out of practice. So I got a little something in my throat. But that's okay, because what I have to say is going to make so much sense that even if I'm coughing a little bit, I think you're still going to catch what I'm saying here. Because here in Arizona, voting has already started. You can vote early or return your mail ballot today. There's no reason to delay. What you waiting for?
All right, Barack Obama on the stump, Tucson, Arizona. That's the University of Arizona. President Obama has been deployed at least the past times or two to talk to the African-American population, primarily the male African-American population. He got an awful lot of pushback and flack for that a week ago. This is a very different audience. The African-American percentage of Arizona, for example, only 4.7%. But it shows you really how thin of a margin that the Harris campaign thinks that they will win on. They are trying to keep Kamala Harris as much as they can in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. One might think that the Sun Belt states, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, we'll see if they get any attention from the Harris campaign. That'll tell us a lot about how worried they are, Barack Obama there. Elon Musk. Barack Obama used to talk glowingly about Elon Musk. Remember that? Elon Musk went from hero of the left to villain that now must be stopped at all costs. How the war on Elon Musk is just getting started. All right, welcome back. Live pictures. Detroit, Michigan, awaiting Donald Trump. He was not all that kind to Detroit, Michigan, to be fair, the last time he spoke. We'll see if that changes. He's about a half an hour behind. That happens in the last 18 days of the campaign. Somebody else having a rally in just a couple of minutes for Donald Trump is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is, shall we say, shifted on the political spectrum. Just a few years ago, Democrats praised Elon Musk for saving humanity. Electric cars, cheap space flight, the answer to rural broadband. But now he's a James Bond supervillain who needs to be stopped at any cost. The only thing that we can figure out that has changed about Elon Musk is that he now supports Donald Trump.
President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America. We want sensible government spending. We want support of the Constitution and the right to, freedom of speech, right to bear arms. And that's what Donald Trump is going to do.
To be fair, Donald Trump's not exactly been known for sensible government spending, but there are some other things that you could hear from Mr. Musk. A Wall Street Journal op-ed from FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr lays out how the Biden administration actively retaliated against Musk and Starlink at the expense of rural Americans to punish Musk. I would recommend you go read it. California now wants to ban SpaceX launches because of his political views, despite the thousands of high-paying jobs and investment it would bring. And what I'm about to show you next perfectly sums up how Washington works. One guy tells the truth about the war on Elon Musk. That was Brendan Carr. Took a lot of bravery for him to come out and write that piece. We have a link to it on War Notes. One guy tells the truth about the war on Elon Musk, and Politico does a hatchet job. Their hit piece on FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr shows how worried they are. The D.C. bureaucrat who could deliver billions to Elon Musk, writes John Hendel. Several cable outlets have followed suit.
Elon Musk, on his social media platform almost every single day, promotes election disinformation. Elon Musk is perhaps the world's leading spreader of disinformation, including outright lies about hurricane relief, about illegal immigrants.
It's American as apple pie, a long tradition of extremely rich, real right-wing cranks, from Henry Ford to H.L. Hunt. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, is trying to control American politics.
Well, to be fair, Henry Ford was just a ridiculous anti-Semite, among other things. What's so telling about this being political is we haven't been able to find the damning headlines about Mark Cuban, another billionaire, or Taylor Swift, another billionaire, who are supporting Kamala Harris. So that must be the new standard in America. Billionaires supporting Trump are evil. Billionaires supporting Harris are saving humanity. Taylor Lorenz is here, tech and culture journalist, host of the Power User podcast, author of Extremely Online. Welcome to the program. We appreciate it. Let's just use the Cuban and Swift standard for how they have been deified for supporting Kamala Harris. Why is Musk not being treated by the same standard?
Well, Musk, unlike the other two, owns one of the most popular and influential social media apps. So he has a much bigger megaphone, I would say, than the other two, which, of course, use social media, but don't really have that sort of platform that Musk himself has with Twitter, or X, rather.
Okay, but fair is fair based on whatever your platform is. Why is Musk gone from hero, which the left thought he was, to now supervillain?
So this flip actually happened years ago. It sort of coincided with what is called the techlash. So once Trump was elected back in 2016, you saw the rise of a lot of scandals around these tech companies that had been sort of lauded for connecting the world and all of these things. Suddenly you had data privacy scandals like Cambridge Analytica and other things like that. You start to see a lot of backlash towards all of the tech leaders. Mark Zuckerberg went through the exact same thing, right? People used to love Mark Zuckerberg. Now they're extremely critical of him. So all of these tech billionaires were suddenly under tons of scrutiny. Elon Musk specifically really had kind of I would say, fall from grace in the media, because he also just started to engage more directly with the media. Like, he used to kind of be a little bit more behind the scenes. He was a little bit more agnostic around his sort of views on things.
Come on, Taylor, you can't tell me that it doesn't have something to do with his support of Donald Trump now. That at least the hyper focus of him over the past 6 months and vilification of him is because he is allowing speech on X that
Well, he's not allowing
liberals find offensive.
He's banning journalists, right? He's censoring a lot of speech on X, which I think is very concerning. I think he is unfortunately not.
Wait, hold on. I thought the misinformation police love censorship.
Yeah, exactly. But, I have to tell you, as a journalist and somebody that was personally banned by Elon Musk from X, I think it's concerning that all of these tech platforms are, not taking that more seriously. But I think,
hold on. Just to be fair, though, you were part of the crowd, and I appreciate you coming on the program, but weren't you part of the crowd who favored banning and shadow banning and throttling things that you all didn't like?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have been an extreme outspoken advocate for actually more bottom-up community moderation, things like community notes. I am against top-down moderation with tech companies. That's something that I've always been consistent on. Always.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but it's disingenuous to act like Elon wasn't getting tough treatment from the press. Go look at the coverage of when he bought Twitter and the moves that he made directly after he bought Twitter, all of the negative headlines, right? Like, he was getting railed in the press. People were rightly, I think, quite critical of some of the moves he was making back then as well.
How much of that do you think though is because the press is threatened by him?
Well, look, I think the press has an antagonistic relationship with billionaires, which is what we want, right? We want them to be critical of all billionaires, not just Elon Musk. It would be great if the press was critical of all billionaires in the same way. But look, Elon was making really erratic moves. Remember when he just let everybody that had ever been banned off Twitter back on Twitter without sort of giving any care to why certain people were banned? I'm not necessarily for lifetime bans on social media, but I think it's worth noting that he was being scrutinized back then, and that was way before he endorsed Trump.
But he was being scrutinized sort of for the same thing, right? He was letting a lot of right-wing people back on Twitter. But you say that billionaires should all be treated equally when they want to get involved in politics. Fine, fair is fair. That's what this program's about. But George Soros, who I think we can all say is an extraordinarily politically involved person, as is his son, he got a sweetheart deal from the FCC about radio stations. And nobody said anything. But yet when Elon Musk is doing it, then there's all these warnings about him weaponizing Twitter. Again, the only thing I can see is that because one's right wing and one's left wing.
Well, but let's not forget, I think it's worth asking the question, are we comfortable with a billionaire owning and controlling one of the most powerful social media platforms for speech, and arbitrarily making decisions, that sway an election?
Why wouldn't we be comfortable?
Because I think we would ask for more transparency. I think ideally, first of all, we'd have a political system that wasn't run and controlled by billionaires. It would be great if we didn't have a political system that was so driven by money, right? But I do think it's worth scrutinizing his actions. And that's not to say that Elon deserves less scrutiny. He deserves more. They all deserve more. Billionaires all deserve more scrutiny, right?
We'll wait for the scrutiny. I will wait for the scrutiny on Mark Cuban to come. And look, you're maybe right. Maybe it will. It would be better for it. Taylor, great conversation.
He doesn't own a massive social platform.
Oh, well, so it's only billionaires who own social platforms that need to be scrutinized.
No, it's billionaires.
Fine. I'll wait for the scrutiny of George Soros to come. We got to run. It was a great conversation. We're going to have you back on set in D.C. All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Good to see you. An organ drowned out their words. You couldn't hear them. But Barack Obama and Joe Biden cannot hide their body language from our body language expert. What this video says about Kamala Harris come November 5th. This week, President Joe Biden had a conversation with Barack Obama at F.L. Kennedy's memorial service. What you really wanted to do in this moment was read lips. And there have been people on the internet who have tried to do it, but we don't engage in speculation here, so we don't actually know what they're saying. You can see Biden saying something, and Obama shake his head and mouth the word that appears to be no. I can't read lips, not going to try. Greg Hartley is with us, former Army Special Forces interrogator who taught human behavior classes in the military, author of the most dangerous business book you will ever read. I'm about halfway through it. It's quite enjoyable. I would suggest it to all. Greg, what do you see in the body language between Barack Obama and his former VP?
So let's start off with Obama. Starts off with his arms crossed, and we'll say that doesn't mean anything by itself. However, he's turned to an oblique. That's shutting someone out. The other couple of things to watch him, I agree with you. I think he's saying nope. Then he's got dismissal as he pulls the sides of his mouth back. Even looks a little bit exasperated. I'm going to tell you something you can go home and try with your wife and see how this works. Inhale really quickly and cut your eyes away from her and see how that works out. That's what he just did to him. Because cuts his eyes away like, yeah, I've had enough of this. So it looks like frustration to me. And then
that would be on the way to the couch at that point, right? That sort of
exactly.
Yeah,
well, I think that might be where Biden's headed too. So and then Biden does the nonverbal equivalent of but. He reaches out and grabs his sleeve, like, "Hey, coach. Hey, coach." It's just awkward. It is an awkward exchange.
Yeah, it seems as though Barack Obama is far less interested in talking to Joe Biden than Joe Biden is talking to Barack Obama.
Look at the eye contact. Biden's eyes are laser focused on him, and his are not. Watch Obama's blink rate increase when the conversation first starts. That's usually related to stress or frustration or something like that. And it's autonomic. It's not something we control.
Yeah, frustration too. This was funny. It's always interesting to see how people act when you're not hearing what they're saying. Because it tells you a lot. As you point out, the responses are automatic. You can't control them. This was Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer last night at the Al Smith dinner. And obviously Schumer has said awful and horrible things about Donald Trump, says that he's a threat to democracy. He's going to end the republic. His reelection would be the worst thing ever. And you look at the two of them talking, they'll zoom out for a second. You're going to see Schumer there. It was a very different interaction than what you think of somebody, thinking they're sitting next to Hitler.
I could voice over this, and this could be, "Hey, did you try carbone? Yeah, not a fan of the soup. But mind you, the best steak I ever had." And then they start using each other's hand signals. They're using mirroring. Watch them, even reaching out and touching. That's all friendly. And you can tell their cadence. Everything about them is friendly just before the cardinal sits.
Huh. Yeah. Now, what do you make of the pointing the finger right at the end? Could be anything? Okay.
Could be anything, but you watch him doing this, moving hands back and forth and doing the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, we'll try to get you up next time so we can see you showing us. There was a lot made of a moment at a town hall. Donald Trump had taken a couple of questions. It got hot. A number of people fainted in the audience. So Donald Trump paused the town hall and said, hey, we're not going to have any more questions. We're just going to listen to music. Stood up on the stage and danced for about 40 minutes, listened to music while they attended folks and got a number of the people who had fainted out. Here is Donald Trump dancing. Now, look, considering I'm going to a concert tonight, I probably shouldn't talk about how people look dancing. But he didn't seem all that uncomfortable or out of place to me. Didn't really like Kristi Noem's dance moves. But what do we make of this?
Well, I don't think we see anything but just exactly what you're saying. He's taking space. He's standing in front of people. People came to see him. And he's going to stand there as one of my partners on the behavior.